You know that feeling, right? Waking up from a dream that felt so completely real, it just shakes you for a minute. We've all been there. But have you ever really stopped to think about who's writing the script? Who's coding these wild, immersive simulations that run in our heads every night? Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive in layer by layer, from our own minds all the way to artificial ones, to try and figure out how you actually code a dream.
I mean, just think about that for a second. Every single night, with zero input from you, your brain builds entire worlds. It creates characters, it throws in plot twists, it makes you feel these incredibly powerful emotions. It's basically the original generative model, way before we ever thought of computers, and its one job is to convince you that its output is 100% reality.
So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? If our brain is the hardware, who's the programmer? Or what is the programmer? Is it all just random noise from the day, or is there something deeper going on? And I guess the most important question of all, can we get our hands on the source code?
To even begin to answer that, we have to start with the machine itself, the human brain. So let's take a look at how this incredible piece of biological hardware runs its nightly show.
It's this really fascinating paradox. The moment your body goes into a state of near paralysis during what's called rapid eye movement sleep, or REM, your brain just lights up. It becomes incredibly active. And this is the stage where most of our really vivid, story-driven dreams happen. Your mind is basically wide awake, even though you are completely out.
And this right here, this explains so much about why dreams feel the way they do. See, your prefrontal cortex, that's the part in charge of logic and reason, well, it gets dialed way, way down. That's why you can be flying or talking to your dog, and it feels totally normal. But at the same time, your amygdala, the brain's emotional core, is fully online. It's firing on all cylinders. So you get all of this raw, intense emotion with almost no logic to keep it in check.
So what's the point of all this nightly chaos? Well, neuroscientists have a few really interesting theories. One is that dreams are basically a simulator. They let us test drive different scenarios without any real-world consequences. Another idea from researchers like Dr. Rosalind Cartwright is that dreaming actually helps us heal. She found people who dreamt about their emotional trauma actually recovered faster. And then you've got studies from MIT that showed rats replaying maze patterns in their sleep, which suggests dreams are helping us consolidate memories, filing them away. It's like your brain is running diagnostics, therapy, and data backup all at the same time.
Okay, so the brain is this automatic dream machine. Got it. But that brings up the next obvious question. Do we just have to sit back and watch the show? Or can we become the pilot? Can we actually start hacking our own subconscious?
The key to all of this is something called lucid dreaming. You've probably heard of it. It's that moment inside a dream where a little light bulb goes off and you realize, hey, wait a second, I'm dreaming. As soon as you have that awareness, everything changes. The rules start to bend. You're not just an actor in the play anymore. You can actually start rewriting the script.
And look, this isn't just some new age idea. This is a real neurologically measurable state. A landmark study back in 2012 proved it. Scientists hooked lucid dreamers up to EEGs and fMRIs and gave them a simple task. Once you know you're dreaming, signal us by moving your eyes in a specific pattern. And they did it. They sent a conscious message from inside the dream world to us out here in the waking world. Wild.
So how can you do it? Well, there are a few proven techniques. The first is to do reality checks all day long, like try to push your finger through the palm of your other hand. The goal is to make it such a habit that you eventually do it in a dream. Another big one is keeping a dream journal to get better at remembering your dreams. And then there are targeted cues, like playing a specific sound when you're in REM sleep, which can help trigger that aha moment of lucidity. It's all about training your brain to spot the simulation.
But you know, once you start gaining control over your dreams, it opens up a much deeper, kind of unsettling rabbit hole. It forces us to ask a question that philosophers have been wrestling with for thousands of years.
I'm serious. Just think about it for a second. If a dream can feel completely, totally real until the moment you wake up, and you can even become aware inside it and control it, what concrete proof do you have that this, your life right now, isn't just a much longer, more stable kind of dream?
This isn't some new age anxiety either. This is the kind of stuff that kept people like Plato up at night. His famous allegory of the cave is all about this. Prisoners who've only ever seen shadows on a wall and think that's the entire reality. He was really asking, what if everything we think is real is just a shadow of something truer?
And halfway across the world, the philosopher Zhuangzi posed the exact same problem. He dreamt he was a butterfly, having a great time, and then he woke up.
and he was genuinely stumped. He couldn't be sure if he was a man who just dreamed he was a butterfly, or if he was a butterfly who was now dreaming he was a man. The line just completely blurred. So this uncertainty, it's a core part of being human. Okay, so let's switch gears. Let's pivot from ancient philosophy to modern technology. Because in our quest to build intelligent machines, we've kind of accidentally created a digital mirror to our own dreaming minds.
When you hear people talk about AI, they're usually talking about neural networks. And at the end of the day, a neural network is just a big system of math equations, all stacked in layers, that are loosely inspired by how the neurons in our brain are structured. They take in a bunch of data, like all the pixels in a photo, and they learn to spot patterns in it.
So how does it learn? Well, it's basically just a loop of trial and error, a process called gradient descent. It's super simple, really. First, the AI makes a guess. Then it measures how wrong it was. That's the error. Based on that error, it tweaks itself just a little bit to try and do better next time. And then it just does that again and again, millions of times, getting a tiny bit smarter with every single loop.
But what happens when you flip this whole process around? Instead of getting an AI to recognize an image, what if you want it to create one? Well, that's where it gets really dreamlike. With something called a GAN, you have two AIs competing against each other. You have the generator, think of it as an artist, trying to create fake images that look real. And then you have the discriminator, the critic, whose only job is to tell if the image is real or fake. They go back and forth, and eventually the artist gets so good that the critic can't tell the difference anymore. That's how AI learns to imagine.
Okay, and this is where it all comes together. This is the final frontier, where neuroscience, philosophy, and AI all start to overlap. Can we actually take all these pieces and code a conscious dream? There's this incredible theory that helps bridge the gap called predictive coding theory. It suggests that our brain isn't just passively soaking up information from the world. No, it's constantly building a model of the world, predicting what it's going to see next, and then it only really pays attention to the errors, the difference between its prediction and what actually happened. Does that sound familiar? That guess and correct loop is the exact same principle that drives machine learning. So if we were going to write down a recipe for an artificial dream, this is probably what it would look like. For the visuals, you'd use generative models like the diffusion tech behind a lot of the AI image generators out there. For the story, the plot, you'd use something like a transformer model. That's the same architecture behind things like ChatGPT. And to give the dream a purpose, a goal, you'd define a reward function, something it's trying to achieve, whether that's solving a problem or just exploring an idea.
And this is really the mind-blowing takeaway here. Our progress in AI has gone way beyond just recognizing patterns. We are now building systems that create their own internal simulations of reality, which is exactly what our brain does every single night when it dreams. Which leaves us with one last huge question to chew on. As we build these machines that can simulate worlds, that can generate stories, that can, well, dream, will they eventually get to a point where they become self-aware inside that dream? And if they do, will they look around their simulated reality and start asking the same questions Wang Zi did 2,000 years ago? What is real and who is the dreamer?